Your book, The Power of Differentiation, was celebrated as a top marketing book. Let me ask the marketing expert himself, what is the key to discovering a brand's unique differentiation?
Great question. Here's the big thing I'd love the audience to really understand, and that is you discover it. You do not try to create your brand or your differentiation.
Hello, Barry. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
So excited to have you here. Welcome to Peak Performance Perspectives for Entrepreneurs, where we empower them to master health, wealth, and fulfilling relationships. I have to ask you first, what does peak performance mean to you?
Peak performance to me, and I was prepared for that question because I know your show, means to me personally making a difference in other people's lives and being energized by that. It's as simple as that. I like to make a difference. I like to identify what makes people who they are, and I feel fulfillment from that.
Especially as an entrepreneur, fulfillment is one of those things that everyone is chasing. Because almost always when we start with business, we're trying to find a profitable idea, but you dig too deep in that, sometimes you may have a lot of money in the bank, but no fulfillment. So I'm glad you said that. Your book, The Power of Differentiation, was celebrated as a top marketing book. Let me ask the marketing expert himself, what is the key to discovering a brand's unique differentiation?
Great question. Here's the big thing I'd love the audience to really understand, and that is you discover it. You do not try to create your brand or your differentiation. Because as you said, like with fulfillment, it's hard in life to sustain day in and day out what you're doing unless it's genuinely who or what you are. So big thing with differentiation and brand is those 1, 2, 3, or 4 unique distinctive things you do or offer that actually inspire you to do it. So it's fulfilling and it's sustainable, meaning you can wake up every day and go, hey, I can go out there and help this customer do blah, blah, blah. And I'm fired up about it. I just love it. Okay. You get close to that. You're getting pretty close to what your brand is all about.
If I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, wow, that might be true for a company that has really something unique they're doing, like a SpaceX. But I'm just a small guy. I have a lawn mowing business. I have a couple of people who work for me. What I offer, pretty much everybody else offers. So is there really something unique about me? What would you say to that?
I think that's very common, whether you are running a 2-person lawn mowing business or whether you have a $5 billion company. The same thing is said by people running either size of companies that we just talked about. There's got to be a reason somebody hires you. There has to be. And you have to stop for a moment and go, now, wait a minute. Yeah, I know we do what these other people do. Okay, slap yourself in the face when you say we do what everyone else does. Stop it. Stop thinking like that. Stop acting like that. There has to be something. Now, one thing I'll share with the audience that I did not understand in the beginning is do not confuse differentiation with superiority. So it doesn't mean you're superior. But what it does mean is we do it a certain way because of a certain reason. And that's what we're all about. Now, you mentioned lawn mowing. Okay, so I work with 2 guys that are my lawn mowing service. I love the guys. And what's interesting with them is, yes, they have great service, but they're creative. And they're coming up with unique ways to make the lawn look good or to do the landscaping in a certain way. Their uniqueness and differentiation is this hunger for creativity that they have. So the person across the street who's getting their lawn mowed goes, I like the way Barry's lawn looks, and I like what those guys are doing, but we have a guy that's got a lawnmower. What's the difference? Their differentiation is we use creativity to make your lawn beautiful. We don't just cut it, we make it gorgeous.
So what are some beginning exercises you would recommend a company does to try to discover what makes them truly unique?
What I really hope our audience can do, Mark, is to step back for a moment and look at what you're doing. Analyze it. Write down all the steps. Write down everything you're offering. Do that, okay? And look at it first blush. Just go, okay, is there anything that I'm doing or including my competition doesn't have? Is there anything I'm paying a little bit extra for that my competition doesn't have? Start with that. Now, we do that for clients. We'll go into their factory, we'll go into their technology center, and we dig in and we're looking. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a family bakery. I met with the top people, but this is a family business. And I said, hey, what are you guys doing that's different with how you're baking your bread and everything else? And they said, we don't do anything different. I go, okay, and I'm going to give folks here a few inside secrets as to how you can determine your differentiation as I tell the story. So I said, okay, but you're telling me you don't do anything different. And the financial guy goes, yeah, we don't do anything different. We're the same as everybody else. It's all the same. I ask a different question, and this may be a good one for our audience. I said, okay, great. You're doing the same thing everybody down the street does. You just happen to be successful and have been in business 100 years, but you're doing everything everyone else does. Okay, here's a different question. Is there anything you pay extra for to produce that product? For instance, any special ingredient? Dead silence for a second, and the financial person said, yeah, there is a special grain we pay top dollar for, and it's in our bread, and we pay more than anyone else to get that grain in our bread. I said, okay, hold on. Why? It makes our bread taste better. It's healthier. That's why we do it, but it costs us more money. I go, okay, what do you call this grain? I just call grain. I go, okay, maybe you name this grain. Maybe you promote this because that's a differentiator. You paid extra money for this. And they all stopped and they said, you're right. We did. And we pay a lot of extra money for that every year as we're baking our bread and putting that ingredient in. All right. So if we go back to your audience, what things might you be paying a little bit more for to go provide services to your clients? Could be what extra steps are you going through that your competition doesn't go through? These may be some of your differentiators. You said first step, write down what you're doing and see if you can look at that through a different lens. Is there anything I'm paying more or going through more steps to do? Another thing you do is then talk to those customers who work with you, who choose you, and ask them a question. And I'm going to give everybody another kind of inside secret. Don't just say, hey, why do you work with me? Ask them this question. Mr. or Mrs. Customer, what is it that I do that you do not want me to change? What am I offering that you don't want me to stop offering? And then wait for their answer. Don't say anything. Don't fill up the space. You're going to find there's something you're doing that they like. They may say, you know what? I love how creative you are, and I love what your creativity does with such and such. And you're going to talk to other customers. You're going to start to hear, wait a minute, there's something I'm bringing. Another example to share with the audience to inspire them is I work with a legal company, a law firm, and they said to me, look, we're old, we're stodgy, we're more expensive, and the cool kids down the street get all the really neat clients, and we're just these old guys. So I said, okay. So I talked with the people internally there, and I heard a word mentioned a few times from them. I thought, that's an interesting thing. Then I talked to their customer base, and I heard that word brought up one or two more times. And I went back to the client, and I said, okay, here's why your employees are really excited about what you do. And here's why your most loyal clients really value you and pay a little bit extra money to work with you. And they said, what is it? I said, it's one word, bandwidth. You have a bandwidth that you offer, whether it's employer law or real estate law or technology law or trademark law. You offer all these things so that your clients can go to one trusted source. Now, the cool kids down the street don't have the bandwidth. They're going to focus in maybe a third of those specialty areas. You're the bandwidth law firm. So again, look at what you do that is just a little different. Now, when I mentioned bandwidth, Mark, I didn't say that they're superior attorneys. I said they offer bandwidth. So somebody could argue and say, yeah, but my attorneys are better than theirs. I'm not going to get into that argument. That's a personal opinion. But they do factually offer more specialty areas of expertise than their competition does. That's bandwidth. To answer your question, look for your differentiation. Ask those closest to you, your employees, your team, but your customers. Ask them, what should you not change? And you're going to start learning some very interesting answers.
Love it. What should you not change? What is something that is a special thing that you're doing that you're paying extra for, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to what should you not change, like the example of the law firm, bandwidth, I don't see any reason why any company would have trouble talking about this publicly. Look at the array of services we have all under the same umbrella. This is fine. Right. But when it comes to the special thing that I'm paying extra for, like the grapes for a specific wine or the grains for specific bread, that might be like the trade secret, right? I may not want that out. So how would we take that information, give enough to the public to create that curiosity, but not just give away what we're doing special?
In the case of the grain, they were not giving away trade secrets. It was listed on their packaging. It just wasn't promoted. So
Okay.
it's right there. You can go look
Okay.
at where they get that. Oh, there it is. So it wasn't that. And I think sometimes we get too scared that, gee, we're going to tell people what we're doing, and then all of a sudden we're not valuable. And I think we have to have more confidence. I was a songwriter in my earlier days, and I had a lot of songs I sent to publishers, and there always is the fear somebody's going to steal that song from you. But you have to have the confidence that, hey, if somebody steals the song, I'll write more, okay? And I think we have to be bold enough to say, look, in the case of the grain or whatever, we have a special grain, and you can name it something that's not the name of that grain. You could call it something grain. And we have this formula that includes that grain. So you name the formula, and nobody else has that. That's enough. The most important thing isn't that you come up with one differentiation and you hide it because you're afraid people will steal it. The important thing is you celebrate and promote the fact that there is a difference. And by the way, I'm also saying, and this is real important for the audience, if you really have a great differentiation, it means it's not for everybody. All right. Now you may be, what are you talking about? So my company only focuses on one word, and that's differentiation. So when I'm speaking with a prospect and I'm saying, here's our 5-step process that nobody else has, there's one step nobody does. Okay. But I also say, if you think you've already figured out what makes you unique and you don't really think that's a priority, we're not really the right company for you, because you're just looking for somebody to do some execution of ideas and projects. We're not going to be that great for you. So the same thing is, if you taste our bread and you go, I don't know if I like it that much, maybe our not right for you. It's because you're not going to get everybody. You mentioned you could be a small business or a big business. What we're trying to do is get the right type of customers who are willing to pay a little bit more because what they feel we're offering is distinctive, unique, valuable, etc. That's what we're trying to do. And by the way, that makes it more sustainable for us as people running a business, because we're tending to work and focus on the same things every day. We're trying to build a better truck, or we're trying to produce a better product, and we're doing it in a certain way. And that's what we're all about. And it's energizing instead of trying to be all things to all people.
When you're serving everybody, you're serving nobody.
It's exactly right.
We talked a lot about looking for things, looking for signs, looking for information, looking for what makes us different, right? Which begs the question, having worked with so many companies and so many leaders, what are the most common things they overlook when they're trying to build a brand and presence?
They overlook what's right in front of them, and they start to look for the shiny new object, the new get-rich-quick scheme. They start to look for imitations out there. They look at imitating they look at downsizing what they're doing and eliminating some of the unique things that their product offers. They're too close. And one way they know there's a problem, but they don't know what to do about it, is if the quality that's coming out of their company and the morale at the company, all of that is low. It's going down. The morale is dismal. The quality standards are not consistent. Those are all signs that your people are going, I'm not sure what we're all about. I'm not sure why we even care about doing this very well. So the leaders are inundated with a lot of pressures to perform, to grow, to sell, to make profit, to please everybody. If they're a public company, to please the board, to please the stockholders. What we try to do is say, look, that's a tough job. Let us come in and identify a handful of unique differentiators that you can focus your team on. And these are things you're already doing. These are things you've already invested in. We're not trying to create a brand new company. We're trying to discover the company that's right in the middle of all this that you're just not seeing. They get too close to it, they don't see it.
Why do you think that happens? Is it just that they're inundated with the day-to-day work, or like you said, they're looking for the shiny object that they just miss the obvious? Or do they not have the right tools or the exercises like that you laid out that kind of helps them drill deep. Because every company has or every big company has a marketing team and a branding team.
Those marketing and branding teams are most often focused on execution. They're trying to get some deliverables out the door, and they're trying to continue feeding that machine that's in that marketing or branding department. It's a rare leader who steps back and says, I think we need to discover what we're doing that's so great, because otherwise we're going to possibly stop doing a few of those things and also possibly invest into being a company that we're really not. I worked with a company and they developed some beautiful, brilliant engineering concepts, okay? And I won't go into great depth, but they're spending millions and millions of dollars on engineering software and brand new machinery. And yet, at the time we started working with them, they were not talking about their engineering. They were not touting it. And I don't mean bragging. They just were not saying, this is what's so important to us. And when we did the exercise and I said, is there anything you spend a lot of money on? They went, oh, our engineering. Their engineering is genius. And that's why their customers that love them were coming to them, but yet they were trying to compete with all these other companies with lousy engineering, lousy quality, but cheap pricing. That's a tough life. So we helped influence them to say, look, you're doing things your competition is not doing. And they said, yes. And I said, okay, we're not asking you to invest one penny more into any of the software or the machinery. We're asking you to stop for a moment and start to promote the unique things you're doing in engineering and celebrate those with your people, because guess what? Your people are proud of your engineering and they're worried and wondering why you never talk about it. Let's celebrate it. Let's improve morale, and let's focus on the next great engineering feat that this team will be able to conquer. Let's do that. That's exciting. And the boss goes, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that. And I go, you can do it, and it is going to cost you no more money in software or machinery because you've already spent that money. Yeah. That's what we have to do, whether we're a small company or a large company. It's not having 100 differentiators. It's not trying to be the cheapest. It's not imitating everyone else. It's saying, okay, for better, for worse, this is what I am. This is what I love to do. This is what my clients tell me I should never, ever change. So this is what I do. This is how we do it. And I hope you, Mr. or Miss Prospect, appreciate that. And if you don't, I understand that. But there are people out there who do, and that's who I want to serve.
In your experience, do most companies reach out to you for help with branding when they are in quote unquote trouble, competition? Or do they reach out to you, like you said, when the leader is willing to take a step back and say, we're doing something great, we should find out what we're doing great and present it to the world so we can do even better work?
Great question. I have had clients call me up sometimes late at night and go, okay, I need some help. And it's almost like calling up your attorney when you're in trouble legally with your companies. I feel I'm calling you up. I'm in trouble with my brand and my vision for the company. So that does happen. I think most of the time it's the mindset of the leader who is saying, okay, I am dissatisfied where we're going and I can't put my finger on it, but morale isn't where it ought to be. Quality is such a fight every single day. Our competition seems to be gaining on us, and I don't know exactly where to turn. So I want somebody to come in with a fresh set of eyes and come back with their recommendations as to what we can do. And when that happens, Mark, it's a lot of fun for my company because the clients we work with the best, we've identified who they are, their mindset or their psycho, as opposed to demographics, their psychographics. The mindset is they tend to be hungry, they tend to be pretty humble, and they're willing to roll up their sleeves. And that's another thing we have to do for your audience. Identify that ideal customer psychographic. So for my company, we do not work well with the client who will not roll up their sleeves, with the client that says, look, I don't know what I want, but I'll know it when I see it. I'm going, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. Or a client that we call a seagull, which is a client that stays away and then swoops in and says, no, none of this is right, and then leaves again and then swoops in. We don't work with those folks very well. And we tell clients, we go, hey, the psychographic we work with is, hey, we're working on ideas. I want to be able to call you and say, okay, Mark, what do you think of this? And I want you to say, okay, I think this and that. Okay, what about that, Mark? We're very collaborative. So we have identified the type of client that we really connect well with. The client that wants it to be perfect and wants us to guess what's in their head, we just can't make them happy. And somebody out there can. I'm just saying it's just not my company's personality. We are to a fault collaborative. We collaborate. I have to almost warn people who want to work at our company and say, look, we hold what we call jam sessions, which are collaborations every day. We hold over 100 client jam sessions annually. It is literally an environment where we're bouncing ideas off each other. That's how it is with our clients. We're bouncing ideas. And we're saying, what do you think of this? What about that? There's no ta-da. There's more of a back and forth relationship. So I think what's very important is to identify who is your ideal client, not just what demographic, what size of business or what industry, but what about their mindset? What kind of personality do you deal with the best?
Talked about morale within the company, which is emotion. There's also emotion that the company has with their customer. And you talk about that in Winning Hearts and Minds in your book. So having observed companies create their product, sell their product, respond to a certain type of customer, what are some strategies would you say that are most effective in building this strong emotional bond within the company and then above all with the customer?
Great question. You're focusing on a topic that's very important, which is the experience, the customer experience, and it relates internally and externally. The customer experience, whether you're a 3-person company or whether you're 30,000, is very important. As an example, we've worked with companies that have, let's say, 500 dealers. They're a car manufacturer. They manufacture automobiles, and they have 500 dealers, and at each dealership, there's an average of 10 salespeople. All right, so that's 5,000 people, let's say. The problem with that is, do they have one experience that customers experience, or do they have 5,000 versions of an experience? Do you walk in to one dealership and talk to one salesperson and it's all price and he or she's trying to lower the price and they're pressuring you, and you walk in another day maybe to that dealership or somewhere else and that person's laid back and is an order taker and just waiting for you to do something? And then do you walk into another dealership and that person understands the product, that person is trustworthy, and you go, this place is a mess. I don't know what I'm buying and who I'm buying it from. So even a small company, but definitely once you have a handful or more people who represent your product, your customer needs to understand what is your experience. If, as an example, in my world, if my company has people who are purely order takers, then the client who hires us because we're creative and we're going to come up with great ideas is going to be very disappointed because they thought they just bought an experience that is filled with thinking and collaboration. We have to identify customer experience. What is it? I work with a really wonderful CPA firm, and they're a supplier of mine too. And they have a great customer experience, but they haven't stopped to think about it. And they're very trustworthy. They give great guidance. They have great expertise, but without stopping them and trying to help them, they look like everybody else out there. They're an accounting firm, and here's what they do. It's a laundry list. And so what I'm trying to help them with, as an example, as friends and partners in businesses, I'm trying to help them and say, look, you need to identify what that experience is. Let's give it a name. And you mentioned, Mark, what about internally? Okay, that's where it gets really exciting. Here's what our experience is. This is what we do for our customers. Here's how we make a difference in their lives. And this is what we're all about. That motivates your team because your team no longer says, I'm just trying to make Mark rich. I'm tired of that. Now they're going to, wait a minute, I'm trying to take care of the client. We're here to make sure we're doing such and such. We're here to make a difference with that customer, that client, whatever. And you know what? I actually have some significance here. And that's whether or not I'm the person sweeping up the floor or whether I'm the person coming up with some great strategy. Every single person must feel they are playing a significant, meaningful role. Now, think about this, everybody. If our employees feel what they're doing is significant and it's meaningful, I bet they're more likely to be retained, stay with you. They're also more likely to do a pretty good quality job because, after all, we're trying to help people, right? We're trying to change things for our clients. We're trying to make their lives even better. So that's what's important. We have to look at what is the experience we deliver. Are we the cheap guys? Are we the premium, uppity, snobbish people? Are we the most technological geniuses? Are we the collaborators? Are we the strategists? Are we the creative ones who do such and such? Are we the fastest? What are we? What is our experience? And that's critical. And that experience needs to be so authentic. Again, don't create your experience, identify it, but it has to be so authentic that it also inspires the very people who are behind it.
When we talked about differentiation, it was all about this what makes us different. When we're talking about the experience factor, is it also that something we're discovering, or is it also that something we need to craft? Like, what do we want the customer experience to be like?
That's a great question. You know what I think it is? And I love the question, is I think it's this. You have to refine it because you're delivering it somewhere at some time. The problem is you're not delivering it consistently. So there is an experience in there where the client goes, my gosh, this is amazing. I love these people. And there's unfortunately some experiences that are probably coming out where the client goes, I'm disappointed here. So what we want to do is refine our best experience that we deliver to the customer. That's why when I mentioned there could be 5,000 different experiences through a dealer network, and I am not exaggerating. Why don't we look at what are the best practices, the best of the best of experiences, and let's go from a scale of 1 to 10, we're an inconsistency out there with our 5,000 people. Hey, let's just get to being a 6. If we're just a 6 out of 10, we are so far ahead. And how do you do that? You might just say, look, here are the 5 steps that we want to offer every single customer that comes in the door. We're going to offer blah, 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 this, that, this. And what happens is you go, okay, at least we're agreeing on those 4, 5, whatever number of things. It's a start. It's not about perfect. In my book, I talk about the perfect trap, and you don't want to fall into the perfect trap. And that's why I mentioned earlier, don't confuse differentiation with superiority. You're not going to have a perfect product. And don't confuse having the perfect experience with, gee, my experience isn't any good, so it's horrible. No, your experience needs to be consistent. It needs to be thoughtful. It should fit what your company's all about. Let's say, Mark, you're running a technology company and you're working with clients on their IT or something. The experience should be that your team should be the people that are saying, hey, here's a recommendation regarding your technology, or here's what the latest technology is all about. We think you ought to look at it. Your team ought to be that educated, trusted source, as an example. Now, if your team is just, if somebody says, hey, what about doing this and that, and your team says, I don't know, I really don't pay attention to technology, you have really hurt the relationship with your customer because you're supposed to be the technology company. I say refine it. Find the best of the best. If you're a small company, you have 3 people that sell, what's the best of what each of them do? You know, one of them does great research. Another one's really great socializing with the client. Another one's got really great creative ideas. How can you try to get those all together into one experience that the client goes, wow?
So now I have discovered my differentiator. I have discovered makes the customer experience great and refined it a little bit to even make it better. Now it's time for me to tell people about it, right? I want to use the power of storytelling to be able to do this.
Right.
When it comes to giving advice to companies how to create a compelling brand narrative, what are some beginning steps that you want to say that listeners should follow to be able to do that?
One thing is to realize that as you are on the journey of determining your differentiation, that itself is part of your story. Think about this. Instead of looking at the end goal, hey, here's what we do. We offer blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. You say, you know what? We stepped back about a year ago and we thought, what are we doing that we need to make sure we always do? And we talked to the top clients of ours. And we found that they really like that we offer such and such, and that we make a difference in the area of whatever. And you know what we did is we decided we were going to focus all our efforts on that. So as you see what we're doing moving forward, it's because those clients and the people we talk to and our employees all rallied around the difference we make for our clients. And that difference is X, whatever it is. So that's why you see going forward this line of new products or this new service offering we have, because that's what we are all about. We find our clients have a better life because we're providing this, and we find that our employees are so proud that they're able to help our clients. What I'm saying to you is your story, once you start this path of differentiation, that's when your story is beginning. It's part of your story. So that's what part of your brand narrative's all about. The fact that you looked at what you're doing, the fact that you reached out, the fact that you were listening, the fact that you decided, you know what, we're going to double down on what everybody loves about us. And we're going to celebrate it with our employees so that every single person understands that. That alone is a pretty interesting brand narrative.
We talked about companies, small and large, and we talked about a process for finding the differentiator, creating that brand, unique brand identity. You have also interviewed upselling authors, CEOs, performers. When we talk about branding of an individual, an influencer,
right?
For some people's company is the person, brand is the person. What are some additional things or sort of some things that are different than what we have already spoken when it comes to the branding of a person versus a company?
I think it's important to choose words wisely. So as an example, one of my favorite slogans is words create worlds. So often, whether it's personal branding or company branding, the same words are used over and over again. So service, values, selection, and quality. Those mean nothing to us anymore. There are 200,000 words in the English language alone. So choose those wisely. As an example, one of my clients had a term that I thought was really interesting that was part of their company's core values. And I had never heard that term as a core value. And the term was rigor, R-I-G-O-R, rigor. And I thought, that's interesting. Because rigor connotates, hey, we're going to make sure it's right. We're going to really work hard at this. We're going to make sure it's exacting. It has a certain feel to it, which is so much better to me than quality. So look at the words. Be very careful. For my company, one of our core values is jamming, as in a jam session. Okay, I've never seen jamming as a core value. I've never seen jamming as something that's described in a business sense. But it fits our company because we're so collaborative and because I have a background in music and we have our own jamming proprietary process that it's really right for us. Look at the specific words. I mentioned earlier in the show, bandwidth. So if I am working at that law firm, I'm talking about our bandwidth. It's important. I want to own, so I want the folks out there to feel this way. I want to own those 1 or 2 or 3 words that describe what I do. I want your audience, if they're a solo, to say, look, here's what I do. And it could be, I provide rigor. I make sure that this is going to get done right. We're going to do whatever. And what I also provide is inspiration. I look for not just something that will work for you, but something that will inspire you. So I'm all about rigor and inspiration as I work with you on these things. Now, your competitor might say, look, I'm cheaper priced and I'm a really nice person. Everybody likes me. I have a great personality. I'm a great joke teller and I'm pretty fast. And you go, okay, but this other person's got rigor and inspiration. And that's an interesting combination, inspiration and rigor. And again, I'm just making this up on the spot, but look for the specifics. Be a little different in the way you describe yourself. Let everybody else be quality, service, value, and selection. Let them all have that. Yeah, they can have it. They have to share it with a few million other companies. Let them do it. But be the company that has the 1 or 2 different words that describe what you do. That's why, like with my company, I say there's one word we focus on, and that's differentiation. And you could hear a pin drop when I say it. I guarantee when I sit down with a client, they don't go, oh, everybody says that. They don't. Some of them can't even pronounce the word. It's 15 letters and 6 syllables. I'm going differentiation. That's what we do. We have these 5 steps. We go through these. One step nobody in the world does. But if you don't find that interesting, okay. And if they go to the next company and they say, hey, you know what, we're going to offer you great pricing and good selection, and we're super nice people. You go, I don't know, I think we need some differentiation here. They didn't really talk about differentiation. And another thing to do here, folks, and this is one thing we alluded to a little bit, Mark, name the differentiations that you have. So as an example, I work in a field where a lot of agencies say, yeah, we do branding. I go, okay, great. A lot of them say, yeah, we'll do a new logo. Okay, great. My company comes in and we say we have a process called brand re-engineering. We're not recreating your brand. We're re-engineering what is already there. And we have these 5 steps. Nobody does the second step of the 5. That's what we offer. When the next competitor comes in, they go, we do logos and we do some really cool branding and it's really cool stuff, man. And there may be clients that want that. And I'm going, that's good thing, because that client would not have been happy with my company because we're going to go too deep. We're going to go too collaborative. So name your differentiation. One more thing when I talked about words, because this is important for our audience. Don't be a Justa or a local or another company. So if you're in technology, don't say we're just a technology company and don't do that. Don't say we're a local consultant and we do. No, you're not a Justa. You're not a local. We are a consultancy that offers such and such and such. And we focus on customers that really have this type of mindset. They're looking for this and that. That can be very powerful. Those are the things we look at. It's in no situation creating something brand new that you cannot live up to. It's the opposite. It's looking at what you are and saying, let's honor it. Let's celebrate what you are and let's share that message.
In a world where increasingly AI is becoming more powerful, customers are becoming more discerning, they want to pay less and less every single day. What makes you unique?
I think AI can be used, and we use it, to come up with a number of different potential ideas. But the thing we have to really stress with our clients is that AI, like any technology, is not human. It's not dealing with the human aspect. And if you just use AI to create what your marketing is, and you say, okay, AI, do this and that, what is it? And then you send that out. Is it genuine to your company? Is it your personality? Is it using the language you use? Is it human? Is it inspiring? And you have to look at that. AI can be a tool for research. It can be a tool to collaborate with a little bit, but you still have to own who you are. And I think it's more important with AI out there to make sure that what you are sharing is truly your authentic differentiation, not a generic one-size-fits-all that all your competitors could also claim.
Talking about bandwidth, you're an author, you're running a company, you're helping clients. How do you have the bandwidth? How do you keep the balance in between Barry, the person, maybe still a musician, and the business person, and all the other endeavors that you have?
I don't think I have balance, because that implies that there's one side of me and then there's the other side of me. I'm the same person through everything. So I just had a great opportunity to grow and learn. And I was the officiant at my nephew's wedding a few weeks ago. So I had to learn, I had to prepare, I had to get up there and do that. And it was something unique. It was something that I had never done before. Likewise, when we tackle new opportunities, whether it's a new book, whether it's working with a client that's in a unique area, a unique business. We're working currently with a AAA baseball team. That's really interesting. I love baseball, but I've never worked with a baseball team. Okay, we're doing that now. I think it's, for me, I am exactly the same person when I wake up and I'm with my grandkids, my wife, my team, my clients. I'm pretty much the same person at all times. And what that really means to me is it's sustainable. So my goal is to, we talked about it early, my goal is to make a difference in people's lives, to identify what makes them who they are and what their potential is, and to celebrate that, to honor that well more than I would criticize where they come up short. To me, most of the time, it's great. Once in a while, I get tired and beat, and that's being human.
I'm listening to this and I'm so excited to hear this podcast. I want to work with Barry, but Barry is somebody who's working with AAA sports teams and Harley-Davidson and
Mhm.
Audi. Maybe I'm feeling too small. What do I do? Do I reach out?
Yeah, you reach out to me on LinkedIn. You reach out to me on my website, barrylabov.com, or my company's website, labov.com. I'm talking to a company from Australia today, and they're a bus company, and they're a transit bus company. I don't know if there's going to be a good connection there, but they reached out, so I'm going to talk to them. And if I can help them, that's great. See, the goal for my company and my business is this. I want to inspire 1 million people with the message that you need to differentiate what you are, discover it, and celebrate it with the most important people, your team, your customers, the people that are closest to you. I want to inspire 1 million people. So reach out. I have never turned down an offer to talk to somebody, and I love it. It's energizing. Most of the time, it is not a transaction. I'm helping somebody. But again, that's one more person toward my 1 million people inspired goal.
Barry, in a world where everybody wants shortcuts and everybody wants fast results and cheap is better, there are some that understand the value of depth. There are some that understand the value in digging deep and asking questions that nobody's even thinking about. That is your differentiator, the type of work you're doing, the type of attention and care you're bringing to a company. It's not just another Excel line in Excel sheet that you just created logos for and moved on. You really took the time to understand the soul of the company and help them articulate it. So the way you work, the way you think, the results speak for themselves, but speaking to you, just getting a glimpse into the way you think and how you see the world has just been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show. Any final words for our audience members?
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure. I would like each person, whether it's a small, large, or any size company, to stop for a moment and give yourself 5 or 10 minutes to begin the thought process of what do we do that really is unique? And what do we do that really inspires me to do more of it? And it's very possible they're the same thing. Give yourself a chance to discover that. And then follow the path we talked about. You could buy my book. It's on Amazon, The Power of Differentiation. It could walk you right through the process I go through. You could reach out to me, or you could do what we talked about earlier, Mark. Talk to your customers, talk to your employees. Start to discover what makes you who you are so that you hold on to it. That's my wish. I would love to see one person do that, because that person's life's going to be a little better as soon as they do it.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Barry.
Thank you, Mark. You're fantastic.